So I'm trying to get Dr. Abhishek live on Instagram so that he can talk about. Okay, one moment. Hi, just trying to get Dr. Abhishek. Yes, Dr. Abhishek is here. I'd like to add you, Dr. Abhishek, to our live feed. Please accept and join. Dr. Abhishek, can you join the live feed? Sending request. Yeah. Hi. So,
Hi.
unfortunately, we couldn't, complete our physiotherapy intervention in post-COVID musculoskeletal issues. So let's do it here and share it with our viewers. So tell us something very little about yourself, first of all, Dr. Abhishek. What do you exactly do?
Well,
And
first, good afternoon to all the viewers. And as we brace through the storm and the second wave of COVID thing, which is coming in towards us, we have to follow the COVID norms, and we have taken out our masks for the purpose of the video, but not for everyone else.
of
Kindly
course,
keep that in mind. And second, but the most important thing is stop panicking. It's just another virus. There is so much of literature which is coming in to scare people out about what's COVID. Well, it is definitely for real. And because it's real, you have to be logical about it. So as my previous speaker, Dr. Veena, was talking about depression, the most important thing is once a person is completely isolated inside a room, he or she doesn't have anyone to talk to, because we are all social animals at the end of the day. So the easiest thing is to get an Alexa, as I was talking to Fiza the other day, and keep talking to Alexa all the time. Ask him,
I
and
like that
Alexa,
about.
yeah,
I like when
yeah.
you said that. I really liked it. I
And
said, "Oh my God, next time I'm going to get COVID, I think I need to buy an Alexa. Whom else can I talk to, right?" True.
yeah, and Alexa never says no. It can either tell I don't know, or I'll always follow your instructions out. I
Right.
said that there is a lot of discrepancies and a lot of different kinds of videos which I see on YouTube about breathing exercises and about post-COVID pains and aches. Well, the first thing is breathing exercises in the case of post-COVID rehabilitation has to be very specific. So if you go to WCPT, as in World Confederation of Physiotherapy, they have decided 3 specific segments of breathing exercises which are based according to the saturation of oxygen in your blood. The first one marked to 93% or more, the second to 87% or more, and the third one is earmarked at less than 85%. Now keep it in mind for all the viewers, the ones which we are going to discuss about is only and only for above 93% up, because below that it requires supervision and has to be done under a trained hands, because in Mumbai last month we had someone who was trying to do a PEEP protocol, and I guess it's unreported. We had some people, some unfortunate demises of patients at home. So coming to Fiza, I hear you had your own ordeal of a COVID thing. So can you elaborate on that?
I mean, to be honest, like when I had COVID, it was my birthday and nobody thought that I would have COVID on my birthday. All I had was just mild temperature and it was 100 to 101. And luckily, I think I would honestly owe it to my fitness level and my lifestyle during my normal days. Because if I hadn't worked out enough, I'm sure I would have been in a soup then. So, like Dr. Veena spoke in our Facebook video, that it's extremely important to have a very healthy lifestyle while you are normally moving about in space, not necessary, or be COVID ready. Or for that matter, I think any ailment, forget COVID, any ailment can be dealt with if you have a very healthy lifestyle. So I think for me, coming back to the musculoskeletal part, since you are the musculoskeletal expert, I would say I really believe in exercises. I believe that one has to do at least cardio thrice a week. Strength training 2 to 3 times a week. So even when I had COVID, I was quarantined in my room and I was yet taking classes, so that saved me, I feel, and I that kept me sane, and I kept me moving because I was away from my children, and that was heartbreaking, right? I mean, everybody who has kids knows that it's terrible to be away from them. So yeah, so let's go back to now very quick questions to Dr. Abhishek. Now, how often do you see the patients with post-viral fatigue and post-exertional malaise or tiredness, and what is the age range, and how do you treat such conditions?
Well, when it comes to post malaise and post fatigue syndrome, of COVID, it's common to everyone.
Give this.
Everybody has a post-fatigue syndrome. What happens is it is short-lived for people who are young or who have a very high VO2 max, or perhaps those people have got a high toleration, because when we do an RT-PCR test these days, they give you a CT value. Now anybody and everybody who is below the CT value of 21 has kind of a longer period of malaise, which can go up from 3 weeks to up to 3 months.
Malaise, you mean to say in local languages pain, right? Body pain, generalized body pain.
Body pain. Generalized body pain.
I've been seeing that a lot of our viewers are not really from the medical field, so we might want to use regular
let's keep it at pain. So pain is pretty normal. Now, what is pain? Now, when you go by the bookish definition of pain, it's a part of your body asking for oxygen. Now, when you were in COVID, you have to understand that the lung parenchyma, the cells which was inside the lungs, they were not able to get the adequate amount of oxygen which they should have got, and hence the permeability or the availability of oxygen in your body had gone down really. Now, when we look at the pulse oximeter, which is like a new household salt gadget which everybody has, now they look at it and they said it's a 91, 92, and I'm pretty fine and I'm not having a dyspnea. Then hello sir, wake up, because if it is 91 at your lung level in your blood, then your muscles are getting less than 60%, which is a drastic amount of reduction in the oxygen demand. Now, when I come to this VO2 max or a 6-minute walk test, which is pretty much the standard these days, when you see a post-COVID patient and you put post-COVID, and I repeat the term post-COVID, and you put the pulse oximeter onto this patient, you would see that he or she is maintaining a saturation of oxygen of around 98 to 99 without any issues. But the moment you give him or her an activity of 15 minutes, you would see that his oxygen starts dropping slowly to a level of 96 or 94. But they are not dyspneic, they are not having any kind of hypoxic symptoms.
They are normal.
So they are normal. Yeah. So in those conditions, you would see those patients coming down to the clinic with a shoulder pain, with an ankle pain, with a knee pain. Now, these are all the tissues in your body which were actually weak, and they were just waiting for a chance to crop up and tell that, hello, I am deficient in oxygen. So as we go, the weakest kid in the body would first shout, the weakest tendon in your body first shouted. Now, these kind of musculoskeletal conditions, if are identified pretty early, then we can put a stop to them immediately. We have a lot of modern studies which are coming in onto laser, and a lot of hyperbaric treatment things which are coming, which helps in reducing the thirst of oxygen at the muscular level, at the cellular level. So that can be modulated. But at the same time, kindly understand that these only work in the post-COVID scenario once the storm or the cytokine storm in your body is at a complete rest. These cannot be administered in the period of an acute COVID. Now, when I say an acute COVID, well, it's something between from 17 days to 24 days is the new norm, which previously was 14 days. Yes. Whenever I see a person in COVID who is an RT-PCR positive, they're telling, I've taken my 2 weeks of quarantine and I'm pretty fine. I don't need to get a test. Hello, sir, wake up. 17 days is the new normal, and yes, I think we are pushing it to 24 days with the new strain which is coming in.
Yes, very much. Yep. Because I have, people currently who are unwell, and it's been 3 weeks, and a few of us do have, it's not me, but then a few of my relatives whom I know are under quarantine since 3 weeks, and there is yet low grade fever in them. The fever is running up to 100. And like the strain last year, you were fine. I was fine in a day or two, and I was doing everything on my own. But now it's a different strain, and it's terrible. And now it's affecting, the conjunctiva. It's affecting your GI. It's affecting everywhere, and anything and everything is COVID these days. Any fever you say is COVID. So the next question now, what is HBOT, and how is it helpful in patients with respiratory insufficiency during or post the illness of COVID-19? Now, what is HBOT? Can you just expand the word HBOT and make people understand what it is?
So basically, HBOT means hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Means the amount of oxygen in the pressure around your body would be increased from the normal atmospheric pressure. Okay. Now, HBOT has been a cornerstone of treatment in burns and in cancer treatment for recovering of wounds. Now, as we were just talking some time back about the post-COVID scenario in which the tissues are really hungry for oxygen, we have found, or some studies are showing some promising results in prolonged chronic conditions of malaise or fatigue. If we are able to put those people on a HBOT treatment protocol, we are able to reduce the efficacy, we are able to reduce the pain threshold by 30% straight off in the first 2 weeks.
So what do you
Now,
exactly do? Do you put on a mask and then you exercise, or how is it?
no,
How
we
do you
put
do
on a
that?
mask to find the VO2 max, and we use a high flow oxygen system through a oxygen concentrator via a BiPAP mask to create a passive, faster airway into the lungs, which
So you
helps in
don't need an
faster
oxygen
addition of it.
cylinder, right? You do not need an oxygen cylinder, to be
No, no,
clear.
no, no.
You
If
just
you
need
if
an
you're
oxygen
using,
concentrator.
yeah, you need an oxygen concentrator. That's one, and at the same time, you need a high pressure system
Okay.
because you're even if you're fixed from COVID, remember that your lungs are scarred. And a scarred lung is a very bad lung because it remembers that it should not expand completely because it's going to get hurt. So the first thing which a VO2 max and a HBOT system does is it reduces the pain which a person has in deep breathing. Now, if now you have seen quite a good share of COVID patients, post-COVID patients, and I've seen quite a
True.
good share of post-COVID patients, you would see that when you ask them to actually breathe, they're not able to breathe completely. So the most important thing which we have to tell to our viewers is if you are post-COVID, don't follow Anulom Vilom. Don't do breath holding techniques. They are going to only scar the lung more because your lung is already scarred. And if you are not metricating the amount of pressure of the air inside your lung, you're only going to land to more scarring and more contraction and more respiratory and breathing difficulty. So HBOT is a really good cornerstone, and we are getting some new light and new research from coming from that end, and it's really helping us put patients back on the track of recovery. That's
And who
really
who
the
are
new
the right
thing.
candidates for people? I mean, who are the right candidates to use HBOT?
Okay, the first candidate who is for an HBOT is a person who has been on ECMO, 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 and
What is
people who
ECMO for
have
normal? Can
had.
you tell us what ECMO means?
Okay, ECMO is
We have
basically a
viewers who are going
device.
to be normal, yeah.
Okay, so we have ECMO is a kind of a device which is used to keep the lung inflated in severe oxygen desaturation conditions, which are at like 45% SpO2, and we can still keep the person alive. So and we can keep that for another day of the topic because it itself is a super specialty.
Right.
And so post ECMO patients and patients who have been on a ventilator and who have just come out, and the most important thing which is underlooked is once you're in COVID, and because you have been in COVID and a lot of our viewers have been in COVID, they forget that they have been bedridden for 3 weeks.
Yes.
Now, if you go by the classical book definition, you lose 2% of your VO2 max every day of a bedridden nature. Now, in an average 3 weeks of a COVID, a person is bedridden for 7 days. Now, it might not be much for me or you or any of our young listeners, but remember, most of the patients who need a post-COVID recovery are post 67, have diabetes, have a cardiac condition, are obese, and the biggest exercise which they do is 15 minutes of cycling and 20 minutes of walk, and they have completely erratic fooding habits and extreme loss of sleep. So once you have this conjunction of these kind of conditions, the VO2 max and the oxygen saturation along with the scarring and with the body pain makes the person's life really miserable. So
Right.
this post-COVID rehab primary is aimed to get back people to their quality of life, which they were before this
So also you would
COVID.
probably generalize, in common, uh, so in common language, you would generalize saying that anybody who's having a saturation of less than say 94 for a long time is potentially needed for, a therapy like HBOT.
Potentially HBOT is targeted. HBOT is the treatment for them.
Okay. And now, how is this therapy helpful in? Okay, let's leave the HBOT topic right now. Let's go to what is vibratory PEP therapy, or the acapella, the device that you use for it, and how to use the device, and what are the benefits of acapella.
Okay, well, coming to that, yeah, normally through the respiratory end of the COVID, a post-COVID patient is classified into two: one who produces an expectorant, one who doesn't produce an expectorant. Now, this PEP or the acapella thing is used for people who are producing a lot of expectorant. Now, it has been seen. Now, there is something which is called as FEV1 and FEV2. It's more of a medical term, but we have understood that if we are able to create a good amount of eccentric or back pressure while you're blowing out, we are able to create a better pressure when you breathe in. As we had studied in our first year of physiotherapy, before a good cycle of breathing, you have to really exhale out, and the whole cycle of positive pressure and negative pressure. Well, these devices just help us in augmenting the negative pressure, and you can add a variety of resistances to it. The beauty of this acapella device is, along with providing the resistance, it also gives a mild vibrationary feedback, which helps up in breaking the sputum inside your lung. And post that, and remember this very important, if you're using an acapella device out there, acapella device or this PEP device or a vibratory device is supposed to be used before you cough, not after you cough, because
Right.
you use this device, dislodge the sputum, and then you cough, and then the sputum comes out. And don't worry, immediately after this whole technique or this whole process, if you take the saturation of your oxygen, you would see that it actually falls down.
Okay.
Don't worry, it's because you have created a fantastic amount of contraction in the lung tissue, which is going to take a little bit time to inflate back. So give it that time, and you would actually have a higher base stable saturation of oxygen. Now,
So
these
can
devices
anybody and
have
everybody use an acapella, or it has to be done under a,
no, acapella can be
guidance of
used by
a,
everyone. Acapella can be used by everyone over the counter, but again, for people who are above 93% saturation of oxygen,
right.
anything below 93 is a very specific yellow flag, as in it has to be advised, and below 87 it has to be a red flag, only if advised.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. Now, we also have noticed that you've got this optic robotic laser therapy that you work with on post-COVID patients. I mean,
Yes.
how true is it? Like we've spoken about how there is hypoxia, there is very less oxygen that is, delivered to the muscle because there's less oxygen already in your, lungs, because of which you end up having like a crying baby is saying that, okay, I need attention. So one of your body parts might actually start aching. So how does this optic robotic laser therapy help in such conditions?
Okay. The first thing you have to understand is when you are unable to breathe in COVID, it is not just the lung which is not moving. It's the lung parenchyma as well as the tissues around it. And we all have completely understood that there is a lot of inflammation in and around the lungs. Now, laser in physiotherapy, as you know, we have been using laser for almost a decade in our physiotherapy profession, is the best tool to target and reduce inflammation in our body.
Right.
Now, the part of robotic, well, you cannot have a physiotherapist through and throughout the day doing laser twice a day to a patient on a specific pattern. Hence, the whole robotic intervention came in so that we can give a non-hands-on approach to the patient to prevent contamination of the device.
Right.
That's
Right.
part one. And part two is because it's a very tough. Now, you are giving ivermectin, or you're giving doxy, or you're giving an antibiotic, or you're giving a remdesivir, but you're giving all of that through your bloodstream or your gastrointestinal stream, and which
Right.
eventually has to find its way to the lung. But the laser has a direct approach to the tissues around the lung. And if we are able to reduce spasm and pain in the chest, improve a little bit of diaphragmatic mobility, goes a really long way in holding the saturation of oxygen.
Makes complete
And
sense.
and what we have seen is the pre and the post x-ray findings have been something really out of the world. And the best part is APTA, as in the American Physiotherapy Association, has made it a mandate for all post-COVID rehabilitation centers to have laser, because we have seen an average length of stay, ALOS as we tell it, average length of stay of a patient in a COVID ward is placed anything between 9 days to 14 days. On active intervention of physiotherapy via these various techniques and laser, we have been able to get it down to 7 to 11 days. So we are being
Amazing.
able to
Yeah.
free up bed 3 to 4 days faster, which is like fantastic.
True. Very true. So then moving on to the next one, what are the most common musculoskeletal conditions that you see in patients with post-COVID illness? I mean, because you're into musculoskeletal, let's just talk about what are the most common things that you've seen, musculoskeletal conditions, and what is the age range that you see it in? you just see only the older age range with the comorbidities, or you also see the patients coming up with, who are at a younger age?
Okay, so the presentation is completely erratic. We still cannot put a Bell's curve on to telling that it's only to geriatric people and not to pediatric or youngsters. The other day I had someone who was 38 years old, and the other day I had someone who was 71 years old. What seems to be a common subset is shoulder pain. Now, as we all physios know who is watching this feed, or all the normal people, well, shoulders are attached to the chest or attached to the thoracic cage of your body. So any kind of a change in the thoracic
True, it then
mobility of
directly goes
it
there.
will cause problems in the shoulder. Now, imagine you not being able to breathe properly for 3 weeks, coupled by you having those episodes of wheezes and coughs for a period of at least 2 to 3 days, and those sleepless nights. Well, they are like a complete nightmare for neck pain, back pain, and shoulder pain. But we are also seeing some tendon pains coming up, like ankle pain. Something of an ATFL injuries are coming up really well. We are seeing a lot of hamstring injuries coming in. At this point, we are pretty point blank. We
As
don't
to
have
why
a
it's
complete
happening,
understanding
yeah.
of why it is happening. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I do
But
understand the
shoulder pain and
explanation
neck
that
pain
you
is,
gave about the entire thoracic area, because it's so closely connected to your chest. But then, the
yes.
peripheral areas is something that we are yet not able to understand as to why it's happening.
As you would recall, when we used to do our internship, and we used to do thoracic mobility exercises for all bypass patients, all CABG patients. So today people are coming onto YouTube and showing thoracic mobility exercises, which we have been doing for, I guess,
True.
2-3 decades back. So and shoulder has been a part and parcel of any and every thoracic intervention for almost 25-30
Right.
years.
Anything to do with the heart, to do with the lung, you have, the shoulder popping in with
The
issues,
shoulder
right?
has to come up. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. And what is your take on the entire hype about pronation? We've known this forever, that pronation, of course, helps. And what would you, have to say on that?
Well, as if my anatomy serves me well, the right lung has 4 lobes and the left lung has 3 lobes. Now, the prone position would only work if you have basal lower lobes affected, as we had studied in postural drainage. Although, because the kind of this disease which we are facing and the conditions which we are seeing, it's alwaysly, or mostly, it's the basal lobe. But it's always good before sticking to a. Now, we are all, the context of this discussion is for post-COVID. So anybody who has had a post-COVID, each of you would remember that when you go for your final checkup, before the doctor says that you are COVID free, they would tell your this lobe was affected. Now, 70% of the people have the lower lobe affected, so 70% of people would benefit from a prone position, but 30% people won't. Now, don't get confused there. It was not your lower lobe, it was some other lobe. So you have to just understand which lobe, contact your nearby physiotherapist, and he or she is going to help you with the correct segmental strategy for you. It might be a sideline way for you. It might be a supine for you. But, well, prone still serves to 70% of the population.
So yes, let's go with pronation during and maybe even post. For how long? Like,
Post, yeah.
for at least, yeah, post-COVID also would really help.
We would say put it at something around 15 to 20 minutes, 5 to 8 times a day.
Yeah, again, we need to have this disclaimer that anybody with back pain, with a, larger protruding abdomen,
Exactly.
those things yet come into
Exactly.
picture where you cannot really lie down prone. Yeah, when
Yeah,
you
exactly.
have such issues. Say if you
If
have
you
a
have
back pain.
if you have a
I guess your video seems to be stuck. Are you able to? Yeah, you're back. Okay.
Yeah, tell me.
So what is what is like your giveaway advice to anybody who is watching this video, like be it physiotherapists, be it commoners, be it anybody who commonly has to, because we have emphasized on the lifestyle changes. The kind of lifestyle that you lead will be automatically or directly proportional to how badly you will fall in during COVID, right? So what are your giveaways from this, or what would you like to tell people to do more often to make sure that even if you are affected with COVID, you're not that bad. You can survive it and you can get away with it, or you can get through it without issues.
Yeah. So the first thing is it's a virus. Yeah, and it's a smart virus. And the more you let it stay with you, the more it will mutate. We can have another live talk on the whole mutation theory of the virus and all of that. But remember, we are trying to create a predictable long-term pattern of breathing exercise, predictable long-term pattern of breathing exercise, which would help each and every patient for the length of the whole post-COVID care. The most metricated and the best breathing exercise which I have come across in my life is a spirometer, because you get to see your improvements, you have colorful balls in front of you, and it can actually give you a good, nice visual feedback. That's part one. Number two, try to blow off candles at some distance from you, or you can even try to, blow up balloons. Now, if you have a trouble doing that, just try blowing a piece of napkin a little distance from your face. All of these do add up. But remember, if you are a post-COVID patient, the exercise to go is eccentric exercise. You should not be doing breath holds. And even if you're doing strength training, remember, you should only be doing at 20 to 30% of your capability, because you go higher and your muscles are already famished. They're going to land up in injuries, and you would not want those injuries immediately in the post-COVID period. So the take-home message is simple breathing exercises, long-term repetitions, and that should fix the problem. There's nothing much to worry. Yeah.
So that's the whole part of the musculoskeletal, issues, and how we can handle them during and, during the COVID and post-COVID. So thank you so much, Dr. Abhishek, for coming
Most
with us
welcome.
on live. And you take and thank